G'day, this is Chris Savage from RL Ministries in Australia, welcoming you to this session of Faith Foundations. Thank you for coming along. Pray to be a blessing to you. So thank you for coming along to this session. We're starting a new series called Angelology, and we're going to look at part 1 tonight of the doctrine of the elect angels. So what do we got here? Let's see. Ephesians chapter 6, verse 11 to 12 says, "Put on the whole armor of God, that you may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. For our wrestling is not against flesh and blood, but against the principalities, against the powers, against the world rulers of this darkness, against the spiritual host of wickedness in the heavenly places." So this is the study we're looking at. These are the things we'll be covering in this study. Yeah, angelology. This is a study on the angels of God, that is on what the Bible teaches about good angels. That's what we're looking at tonight, good angels. And these are the angels who did not fall. Theologically, this area of study is known as angelology, or the doctrine of angels. There are 3 main divisions of angelology. It's a strange word, isn't it? Angelology. First, we have angelology proper, which is a doctrine on fallen angels. Then we have Satanology, which is a doctrine of Satan. And then third, we have demonology, which is a doctrine of the fallen angels. In this particular study, we're doing this session and next session, we're not dealing with either Satanology or demonology, but only with angelology proper, or the doctrine of the on fallen angels, or the doctrine of the elect angels. They are divine messengers. It's a general, this is a general term used of all celestial beings. That's what angels are, celestial beings. It primarily, the term angel primarily refers to the lowest order of celestial beings, which is angels proper. It's a descriptive title of it, like an office or a service. Now, there are a number of wrong views regarding angels. For instance, it has been taught that angels are simply transient emanations from God, or permanent emanations from God. It's also been taught that angels are glorified human beings. That is, that when a believer dies and goes to heaven, he becomes an angel. And then among the unbelievers, a common teaching is that angels do not exist. They believe that Jesus simply mentioned angels just to accommodate himself to the popular thinking of his day, but that he himself knew better. So what the unbeliever believes is that Jesus wasn't telling the truth. That's what they believe. Now, the doctrine of unfallen angels, they are called elect angels in 1 Timothy 5:21, and they're also called holy angels, and that is because they're confirmed in their holiness in Mark 8:38 and Luke 9:26. Now, unfallen angels are given 2 specific titles in Scripture. They're called elect, which we just looked at. And we see in 1 Timothy 5:21, it says, "In the presence of God and of Christ Jesus and of the elect angels, I charge you to keep these rules without prejudging, doing nothing from partiality," which meant here, it means that they were elected not to fall and have been confirmed in their holiness. Now, what am I talking about when I say confirmed in their holiness? After God created Adam and Eve, he subjected Adam and Eve to a test in the garden to see if they would obey or disobey. Now, in the very same way, after God created the angels, he then subjected them to a test to see if they would be obedient or disobedient. Now, 1/3 of the angels chose to be disobedient to God, and they followed Satan in his fall. And those angels became demons. But 2/3 of the angels chose not to follow Satan, and they have been now confirmed in their holiness, or in their holy state. Now, what does that mean? Well, confirmed holiness means that they're no longer capable of falling. The period of testing and probation is over, and they're no longer capable of sinning at all. Now, when you and I receive our resurrected bodies, we'll also be confirmed in our holiness, and in our resurrection bodies, we will not be capable of sinning either. Now, God himself has always been confirmed in his holiness, and simply because he's incapable of sinning. So these unfallen angels are no longer capable of sinning, so they are called elect angels. The second title for our unfallen angels is holy angels, and this is to contrast them with fallen angels who are wicked and unholy. In Mark 8:38, Jesus speaking, he says, "Whoever is ashamed of me and of my words in this adulterous and sinful generation, of him will the Son of Man also be ashamed when he comes in the glory of his Father with the holy angels," the good guys. Yeah, the existence of angels. Does the Bible really teach that angels exist? Well, guess what? Angels are mentioned in Scripture 273 times, and that is in 33 of the 66 books, which means that half of the books of the Bible actually mention angels. In the Old Testament, angels are mentioned 108 times in 18 books. We have them in Genesis, Exodus, Numbers, Judges, 1st and 2nd Samuel, 1st, 2nd Kings, 1st, 2nd Chronicles, Job, Psalms, Ecclesiastes, Isaiah, Ezekiel, Daniel, Hosea, Zechariah. Now, in the Old Testament, angels are not only mentioned in the apocalyptic type books, but also in the prophetical, in the historical, and in the poetical books. So they cover all the various genres in the Old Testament. In the New Testament, angels are mentioned a total of 165 times in 15 books. Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, the Gospels, Acts, Romans, 2nd Corinthians, Galatians, Colossians, 2nd Thessalonians, 1st Timothy, 1st and 2nd Peter, Jude, and Revelation. Same thing with the Old Testament. All types of New Testament literature mention the existence of angels. So it covers the whole span. Now, it's obvious from Scripture, clearly teaches the existence of angels from the very first book, Genesis, to the last book, Revelation. Angels are not only mentioned in the older, when I say older primitive books, I mean the books like Job and things like that, but also in the later books, the mention of angels is now scattered right throughout the Scriptures. In other words, the mention of angels is not peculiar to just one author, nor is it peculiar to just visionary authors only. It is right across the whole span. Jesus himself also clearly taught the existence of angels, and he referred to them in every gospel. Matthew 13:38 and 41 and 49, Mark 12:25, Luke 12:8-9, and John 1:51. There's a couple of other ones there, Mark 8:38 as well, and Mark 13:27 and 32. There's quite a lot of them there on the diagram. Now, if he taught the existence of angels, what option do believers have in light of what he taught, what Jesus taught? We actually have 5 options. First option we have is that Jesus was deceived. The angels do not really exist. He taught the existence of angels, and he believed in the existence of angels. Remember, these are the options that we have. This, of course, would mean that that Jesus himself was deceived. And there are some people who do believe this. Secondly, that Jesus was being deceptive. Jesus himself did not believe in angels, and he knew that angels did not exist. So then when he was merely being deceptive, and some people have taught this as well, that taught us about Jesus. Thirdly, that Jesus was merely accommodating himself. And the concept of accommodation teaches that Jesus knew better. He's not trying to be deceptive, but he was simply accommodating his teachings to the common beliefs of that day so that people would understand the main truths of what he was saying. This sounds a little bit better than saying he was being deceptive, but actually it comes out the same way in the end. This was an attempt to make it sound better. Fourthly, that Jesus never mentioned the existence of angels and did not teach the existence of angels, but the writers of the gospel put these words into his mouth. Therefore, it was not Jesus who was deceptive, but the writers of the gospel. But guess what? If that's the case, if the gospels cannot be trusted when they quote Jesus on angels, how can they be trusted when they quote him in anything else? Now, the only valid option is the fifth option, that Jesus really did believe in the existence of angels and therefore taught their existence, because angels do actually exist. The names of angels, well, the Bible uses several names for these celestial beings. The first name is the most common one used, which is angel. The word for angel in Hebrew is malach, and in Greek it means angelos. The word is angelos, and they both mean the same thing, a messenger. And it is also used for human messengers. We see that in Genesis 32 verse 3, and we see a divine messenger in Genesis 32 verse 1. Now, when it's used of a divine messenger, it refers to an angel. Now, this name angel emphasizes the office and function. The office is that of a messenger, and the function is that of service. The term angel is generally used, is the general term used for all celestial beings. It's used for both the lower and higher celestial beings, but the most common, I'll show you shortly that we have three groups. It is a descriptive title of an office or function of serving, which we find in Hebrews chapter 1 verse 7. A second name is the sons of God, and this is strictly an Old Testament name. The Hebrew is Benai Elohim. In the Old Testament, the term sons of God is always plural and always refers to angels. We can see this in Genesis 6 verse 2 and 4, Job 1 6 and 2 1, and Job 38 verse 7. Third name is the sons of the mighty, or the sons of the mighty one. And this is very similar to the term sons of God, because God is the mighty one. And we can find it in Psalm 29 verse 1 and Psalm 89 verse 6. Fourth name is that of the holy ones, which emphasizes their unfallen state as opposed to the angels who fell and became demons. And that we can find in Psalm 89 verse 5 and verse 7, Daniel 4 13, 17, and Daniel 8 verse 13. Fifth name is a watcher, which emphasizes their function of observing. They are observers to see whether God's will is being carried out. And so they're watching to make sure that indeed it is carried out. And we can find it in Daniel chapter 4, verses 13 and 17. The sixth name is watchmen, which also emphasizes their function of observation. Whereas a watcher emphasizes purely the aspect to see if God's will is being carried out, a watchman also carries the concept of guarding. And these are watchmen in that they're watching over a situation as guardians. And we can find it in Isaiah 62 verse 6. Seventh name is spirits. Why? Because, well, angels are spirit beings. And that's in Hebrews chapter 1 verse 14. Eighth name is stars. Now, with the exception of Numbers 24 verse 17, whenever the word star is used symbolically, it is always a symbol for an angel. And we find this in Job 38 verse 7, Revelation 1 verse 20, Revelation 9 verse 1, and Revelation 12 verse 4. A ninth name is ministers, and this name emphasizes the fact that angels are ministers of God carrying out his will. And we can find that in Psalm 103 verse 21, Psalm 104 verse 4, and Hebrews chapter 1 verse 7. And a 10th name is host. This is an English translation of the Hebrew word that actually means army. So the host comprises the heavenly army of God. And that is why God is often referred to as Jehovah of hosts, or the Lord of hosts. for he is the Lord of this angelic army. And we find it in 1 Kings chapter 22, verse 19, Psalm 103, verses 20 to 21, and Psalm 148, verse 2. And the 11th name for angels is chariots, emphasizing their speed in carrying out the will of the Lord. And we find that in 2 Kings 6, verses 16 to 17, Psalm 68, verse 17, Zechariah 6, 1 to 8. And the 12th name for angels is Elohim. And this is a word that means God, little g God. It's used of the one true God and the many false gods. It's also used of angels. Why? Because angels are the representatives of God and have God's delegated authority to speak in his name. And because they speak authoritatively in God's name, they're referred to as Elohim. And this is seen by comparing Psalm 8, verse 5 with Hebrews chapter 2, verse 7. So Psalm 8, 5 and Hebrews 2, 7. Creation of angels, well, 4 things we need to mention here. First up is the fact of their creation. First thing here is that angels were created, and we see this taught in Colossians chapter 1, verse 16. For in him were all things created in the heavens and upon the earth, things visible and things invisible. Angelic beings, things in heaven, things invisible. This emphasizes the fact of their creation. Angels exist because God created them. They were directly created. They were not generated. 3 points. First of all, angels were created simultaneously. God did not create some angels at one point and more angels at another point. Secondly, because of that, the number of angels do not increase, as God is not continually creating new angels. And third, neither does the number of angels decrease. Angels, once they're created, exist forever. They cannot be destroyed. And when were they created? According to Job 38, verses 4 to 7, Job 38, 4 to 7, angels were already in existence when God created the heavens and the earth in Genesis chapter 1, verse 1. So angels were created prior to the creation of the material universe. The existence of angels precedes the universe by some unknown amount of time. Therefore, they also precede man by some amount of time. It's not known how long before Genesis 1:1 they were created, but that indeed they were. If we look at Job 38, 47, you see there, it says, all the sons of God shouted for joy at the creation of the earth. They were created with the power of contrary choice. Now, when angels were all created, they were all created holy, but they were created with the power of contrary choice. And we see this in Mark chapter 8, verse 38, because it says, when he cometh in the glory of his Father with the holy angels. So angels were created holy. Now, the power of contrary choice meant the ability to choose contrary to their nature. So they had the ability to make an unholy choice, which 1/3 of them eventually did and became demons. They followed Satan. The other 2/3 later became confirmed in their holiness and therefore could no longer choose to sin. They no longer have the power of contrary choice. And we see Jude 6 is a good example of the power of contrary choice, because it said, Jude 6 says, angels that kept not their own principality, but left their proper habitation. So they chose to leave their angelic state. Their position in regard to the creation of angels, 2 things to be noted here. First, they are inferior to Messiah as to his deity. In Hebrews chapter 1, verse 4 to chapter 2, verse 3, it says, let all the angels of God worship him, worship Jesus. And they're also inferior to him in his humanity, which we find in Hebrews chapter 2, verses 5 to 8. So they are inferior to the God-man, the Lord Jesus Christ. Secondly, they are superior to common man because they're higher beings than man. And we find it in Psalm 8, 4 to 5, where it says, you have made him a little lower than the heavenly beings as man. And then also in 2 Peter chapter 2, verse 11, it speaks about the angels. They are greater in might and power than men. Again, we also see this in Hebrews chapter 2, verses 5 to 7 as well. The number of angels, well, how many angels are there? Well, there are several passages that simply gives us some hints concerning the number of angels. Deuteronomy 33:2 mentions 10,000s of angels. 2 Kings 6, verse 17, a whole mountain full of angels. Psalm 68:17, 20,000 angels plus thousands upon thousands. Daniel 7:10, thousands of thousands and 10,000 times 10,000s. In Matthew 26:53, it says 12 legions of angels. A legion consists of somewhere between 3,000 to 6,000 individuals. Luke 2:13 mentions a multitude of the heavenly host. Revelation 5:11 says 10,000 times 10,000 and thousands of thousands. The best answer as to how many angels there are is the one given in Hebrews chapter 12, verse 22. Innumerable hosts of angels. So how many angels are there? An innumerable host, myriads and myriads. Now, because of the concept of guardianship, there are always at least as many angels as there are human beings on the face of the earth. So this could also very well mean that there are as many angels as there are humans that will ever exist or that have existed in combination or in totality. We just don't know. It's a lot. Now, this is the other section here now is the abode or the sphere and appearance of angels. Three things we're going to look at here. First up is the angelic abode, where they live, the angelic sphere, where they operate, and the appearance of angels. Now, according to Matthew 18, verse 10, the angelic abode is heaven. Matthew 18:10, see that you despise not one of these little ones, for I say unto you that in heaven their angels do always behold the face of my Father who is in heaven. So they're in heaven. Matthew 24:36 makes the same point, the angels of heaven. Mark 12:25 says angels in heaven. Mark 13:32, angels in heaven. Luke 22:43, an angel from heaven. Galatians 1:8, an angel from heaven. 2 Thessalonians 1:7, from heaven with the angels. So Jude 6, we see that the angels have a proper habitation, and heaven was their proper habitation. So throughout the scriptures, angels are referred to as the hosts of heaven, and so quite obviously the angelic abode or dwelling place is heaven. The angelic sphere means their area of operation. Where do they operate? Well, while they dwell in heaven, they operate in more than just the sphere of heaven. They operate in two other spheres. One sphere is the heavens, which we find in Ephesians 3:10. It says principalities and the powers in the heavenly places. Now, heavens is what is now normally referred to as outer space or the second heaven. In Ephesians 3:10, the term refers to the lower heavens, the heavens of the clouds, meaning outer space. Different parts of the universe are given to the authority of different angels. The second sphere of operation is the earth. So they're in the atmospheric heavens and they're also in the earth. Angels are God's ministers on the earth to accomplish his will. And so as a result of that, they have special ministries and functions on earth. And some examples of the special control on earth include For instance, in Revelation chapter 7, verses 1 to 2, we have angels who control the four winds. And in Revelation 8, 1 to 2, which mentions the seven angels that stand before God in heaven. And when these angels blow a trumpet, great physical things happen on earth. Revelation 14, verse 8 speaks of the angel who has the power over fire. Revelation 16:5 speaks of the angel who has the power over the waters. All these verses show that the second sphere of angels is the earth. So while they do have a function in their abode in heaven, the third heaven, their sphere is not limited to heaven. They also operate in the sphere of outer space and in the sphere of the earth, physical earth. Now, the appearance of angels. Now, the scriptures contain records of angels appearing to people. Now, concerning their appearance, three things we need to look at. First of all, their visibility. There were three main ways angels appeared. Sometimes they appeared in a dream, as was true of Jacob when he saw angels ascending and descending upon a ladder between heaven and earth. We find it in Genesis 28, verse 12. Second way angels appeared to humans was in visions. Now, a vision opened up and certain people saw angels in these visions. For instance, we had Daniel in Daniel 10, Zechariah in chapter 1, verse 7 to chapter 6, verse 8. He had visions. And we had the Apostle John in the book of Revelation. Revelation 1:1 and 21 to 22. A third and more common way angels became visible was by simple appearance. They just turned up by suddenly manifesting themselves, such as we had the angels who appeared at the tomb of Jesus, for instance, in Matthew 28, 2 to 3, and Mark 16:5, Luke 24:4, John 20, verse 12. These angels just appeared in everyday occurrences. One appeared to Mary, told her about the baby, and also at the tomb. Their form, well, angels in the scriptures always appeared as young men. And we see this in Genesis 18, verse 1 to 2, and verse 16 and 22. Also Mark 16, verse 5, Luke 24:4, Acts 1:10 to 11. Nowhere in the scriptures do angels ever appear in the form of women, children, old men, or cupids. Nothing like that. In Mark verse 16, it says a young man was sitting at the tomb. The third thing about the appearance of angels is their effect. The main effect the appearance of angels caused was fear. In Daniel 10:4 to 9, Daniel had the angel appeared to Daniel, and he says, "No strength was left in me. My radiant appearance was fearfully changed." Daniel was frightened. Matthew 28, 2 to 6, and for fear of him, the guards trembled and became like dead men. That's at the tomb. And in Luke 1, 11 to 12, and 26 to 30, and 2:9, an angel of the Lord appeared to them, and the glory of the Lord shone around them, and they were filled with great fear. That's the shepherds. Now, the personality of angels. Now, some teach that angels are not personal beings, that they are merely emanations, or their powers, or their rays, light rays, but they're not real personal beings. However, the three main attributes of personality are intellect, emotion, and will. So that which possesses intellect, emotion, and will, all three, is a personality. So humans are personalities because humans have all three attributes. If it can be shown that angels have these three attributes, then guess what? It proves the personality of angels. Let's have a look at their intellect. Angels have intellect, because 2 Samuel 14 verse 20 says, but my Lord has wisdom like the wisdom of an angel. Certainly to have wisdom means to have intellect. In Psalm 148 verse 2, angels have the ability to praise, and that's another characteristic that requires intellect. Matthew 24 verse 36, concerning that day and hour no one knows, not even the angels of heaven. So angels have the ability to know things, and this too demands an intellect. Matthew 28 verse 5, the angel said to the woman. So angels have the ability to communicate, which requires intellect. Ephesians 3:10, the manifold wisdom of God might now be made known to the rulers and authorities in the heavenly places. Angels learn from God's program for the church. And the fact that they're learning shows that they have intellect. In 1 Peter 1:12, it states that there are things angels desire to look into or look at. And again, such a desire is a result of intellect. So they have intellect. Next thing, emotion. It's in Job 38 verse 7, it says, all the sons of God shouted for joy. So angels have emotion, joy. Luke 15:10, there is joy in the presence of the angels of God over one sinner that repents. Luke speaks of angels having the emotion of joy. If they have joy, these beings must have emotion. What about a will? Angels have will, because in Luke 2:13, the angels praise God. What are they doing? They're exercising their will. In Hebrews 1:6, let all the angels of God worship him. Again, they worship God, also an exercise of the will. And finally, in Jude 6, some angels chose to leave their proper habitation, which was an exercise of will. So we can be absolutely certain that angels have intellect, emotion, and will. Therefore, they are personalities, and they're not mere emanations or light or rays or anything like that. Angels have intellect, emotion, and will. They are personalities. Now, what about the nature of angels? There are four categories concerning the nature of angels. First of all, their creation, their bodies, their company, and their attributes. The creation. In Colossians 1:16, it states that angels are created beings. We touched on that before. Actually, we spoke of it before. Because angels are created beings, they have the limitations of creaturehood. They're creatures. A created being is a creature, and a creature can never have all the powers, attributes, and abilities of the creator. So while angels are far superior to humans, they are greatly inferior to God. For example, angels are not omnipresent. They're limited in space. Daniel 9:21-23 tells us, so does Daniel 10, verses 10-14. So they're not omnipresent. Angels are not omnipotent. They're limited in strength, even though they are powerful and mighty, which we find it back in Daniel chapter 10, verse 10-14, and 2 Peter 2, verse 11. For this reason, because they're not all powerful, Michael the archangel needed divine assistance in Jude 9. Angels are not omniscient either. They're limited in knowledge. Matthew 24:36 states that they do not know when the Messiah is going to return. Ephesians 3:10 and 1 Peter 1:11-12 confirm the limitation in their knowledge. Why? Because that is why angels continue learning. Someone who is omniscient has no need to learn anything. He knows all things. Angels are peering into what's happening in the church because they're learning. What about the bodies of angels? The second, this here now, they're angelic bodies. According to Hebrews 1:14, are they not all ministering spirits sent out to serve for the sake of those who are to inherit salvation? So angels are spirit beings, And this means they are immaterial. They don't have flesh and bones, flesh and blood. They do have a corporeality. They are not ghosts. This corporeality does not consist of flesh and bones. We see in Luke 24:39. The angelic body is composed of a spirit body, but angels can appear in bodily form. We see that in Genesis 18 and 19. In Matthew 1:20. But as he considered these things, behold, an angel of the Lord appeared to him in a dream, saying, Luke 1:11, and there appeared to him an angel of the Lord standing on the right side of the altar of incense. This is poor Zechariah. That's in John 20:12. Hebrews 13:2, we see the same thing. Because angels are spirit beings and immaterial, they're generally not visible. But because they do have some sort of corporeality, they are able to appear in bodily form. And when they do appear in bodily form, they always appear as young men. Another thing about the angelic body is that it is not limited to human concepts of space. According to Luke 8:30, Jesus, this is the guy called Legion, Jesus then asked him, what is your name? And he said, Legion, for many demons had entered him. So a legion of angelic spirit bodies could exist in a very limited space, the space even of one man. Another thing about the angelic body is that they do not reproduce after their kind. And we find this in Mark chapter 12:25. And Jesus is speaking here, and he says, for when they rise from the dead, they neither marry nor are given in marriage, but are like angels in heaven. He's speaking about the resurrection. And since angels are always male and there are no female angels, they're not able to marry and reproduce. But this doesn't mean that angels are sexless. The Greek does have a neuter form, but does not use a neuter form for angels when it speaks about angels. It always uses the masculine noun and the masculine pronoun. In the case of Genesis 6, when some fallen angels intermarried with human women, they were able to produce a grotesque race. But what they produced were not angels after their kind, since the angelic body is not reproducible. The third thing with the nature of angels is that they are a company, they're not a race. The concept of race implies the ability to reproduce after one's kind with particular racial characteristics. As we just saw, angels do not reproduce themselves after their kind. So they are not considered a race, but they're considered a company, which we find in Hebrews 12:22. And as a company, three things should be noted. First of all, they are distinct from humans. We see this in Psalm 8:4-5. What is man that you are mindful of him, and the Son of Man that you care for him? Yet you have made him a little lower than the heavenly beings. Secondly, angels are higher beings than humans. Hebrews 2:7, you made him for a little while lower than the angels. You also see it in 2 Peter chapter 2, verse 11. And third, good angels or elect angels do not marry, which we see in Luke 20, verse 34-36. What are some of the attributes of angels? We have four main features here. We have their holiness. Angels are holy. Luke 9:26, when he comes in his glory and the glory of the Father and of the holy angels. So holiness in their case means they're no longer capable of sinning because they have been confirmed in their holiness. Angels cannot fall as they once could. Their power, they're powerful and mighty. In this area, they are superior to any man who has ever lived. Psalm 103, verse 20 speaks of angels as being mighty in strength. Matthew 28, verse 2, an angel of the Lord descended from heaven and came and rolled back the stone and sat on it. Only one angel was needed to roll away the stone from the tomb of Jesus. though normally several men would have been needed to move such a huge stone. One angel opened the prison doors in Acts chapter 5, verse 19. In Acts 12:7, an angel was able to snap Peter's chains off in prison. An angel was able to smite King Agrippa with a disease that would take his life in Acts 12:23. Angels are referred to by the term powers in Ephesians 1, verse 21. Ephesians 3:10 says, to the intent that now unto the principalities and the powers in the heavenly places might be made known through the church the manifold wisdom of God. Similar thing in Colossians 1:16. 2 Thessalonians 1:7 speaks of the angels of his power. 2 Peter 2:11 refers to the power of angels. So the second key attribute of angels is that they are powerful. Third attribute is that they are immortal. Unlike humans, they are not capable of dying. From their state of creation, they have the attribute of immortality. We find in Luke 20, verse 35 to 36, Jesus is speaking. He says, for they cannot die anymore because they are equal to angels and are sons of God, being sons of the resurrection. So angels do not die, and therefore those resurrected do not die either. Fourthly, they are not divine. This is important, as it is forbidden to worship angels because they are not God. Colossians 2:18, Revelation 19, verse 10 and 22, 8 to 9. Revelation 19:10 says, this is John, then I fell down at his feet to worship him, but he said to me, you must not do that. I'm a fellow servant with you and your brothers who hold to the testimony of Jesus. What about the organization of angels? They're well organized. There are 8 titles that show a tremendous degree of organization in the angelic sphere of existence. These titles will show categories of organization and degrees of organization. We have 8 of them. Thrones. The first one is thrones. Those angels who are on these thrones sit in the immediate presence of God. We find in Colossians 1:16. Dominions. The second title, dominions, this emphasizes the concept of rulership. And this category of angels rules in some specific area. We find it in Ephesians 1, verse 21 and Colossians 1, verse 16. It includes higher angels ruling over lower angels. Principalities, this emphasizes the concept of rulership in the category of governing. Principalities govern. And those angels who are principalities are viewed as rulers of nations, while dominions apparently concern higher angels ruling lower angels. Principalities are rulers of nations. We find this again in Ephesians 3, verse 10 and Colossians 1:16. Authorities, this is the fourth title, which means authorities means to exercise supremacy. Ephesians 1:21, 1 Peter 3:22. Powers. This emphasizes imperial responsibilities. Ephesians 1:21, Ephesians 3:10, Colossians 1:16, 1 Peter 3:22. The sixth title is hosts. This is the Hebrew word for army, and this emphasizes their military organization. We find this in 1 Samuel 1, chapter 1, verse 11, and 1 Kings 22, verse 19. Then we have legions. Legions are like hosts, emphasizes military organization, while the term hosts emphasizes the military organization as a whole, the heavenly host, for instance. The legion is one division within the host, which comprises anywhere from 3,000 to 6,000 angels, which we find that from Matthew 26, verse 53. The eighth title is Chief Prince or Great Prince. The Chief Prince is an angel who heads up and rules over a nation, and we can find that in the book of Daniel, chapter 10, verse 13, and Daniel 12, verse 1. Now, the order of celestial beings, we do have an order. While the terms given to angels indicate that there are rank and order among these beings, they do not reveal what the hierarchy actually looks like. As we can see here, there are three specific orders of celestial beings. We have at the top of the tree, we have cherubim, then we have the seraphim, and then we have the angels. We're primarily dealing with angels in this study, the lowest order, the order of angels here. So much of what we've already discussed has been specifically to do with the order of angels. Sometimes the term angels is used for all celestial beings, as all celestial beings are actually angelic beings. But most frequently, the term angel applies to the lowest of the three orders. Now, in appearance, these beings look like young men, and they do not have wings, as they're so often portrayed as having wings. Angels do not have wings. We have two who are known by name. These are the elect angels, the holy angels. And the first one we have is Michael. He's the archangel. The name Michael means who is like God, and archangel means chief angel. This means that Michael is the one who is in authority over all other angels. He's not in authority over the seraphim and cherubim, but he's in authority over the lowest order, that of the angels. And the concept of angels is reflected in two other names used for Michael. First, in Daniel 10:13, he's called the first prince. There are many princes, but he is the first prince. He is the one in authority over all the others. Also in Daniel 12:1, he's called the great prince. There's only one great prince, and that is the archangel. Great prince and first prince basically mean the same thing and are his two Hebrew titles. Greek title is archangel, which emphasizes Michael as being Lord over all the common angels. You can find it in Revelation 12, verse 7. Now, Michael's position means that he has specific responsibilities. As the archangel, he has all the other angels under his authority. And just as demons are under the authority of Satan, good angels of this category are under the authority of Michael because of his position as archangel. As the archangel, his responsibility is to exercise rule and authority over the other angels. So the responsibility of the good angels is to submit to the authority of Michael. Michael is also given the name chief prince. And the term chief prince applies to angels who have authority over specific nations. Now, as the chief prince, Michael is responsible for the nation of Israel. And that is why it was Michael who protected the body of Moses in Jude 9. In Daniel 10:13-21, Michael made certain that Daniel received the necessary revelation concerning Israel's future. In Daniel 12, verse 1, Michael will protect Israel during the Great Tribulation. And indeed, the reason Israel will survive the tribulation is because of Michael's work. Other future things Michael will do include the announcing of the rapture in 1 Thessalonians 4:16. And in the middle of the tribulation, Michael will cast Satan out from his present third abode in the atmospheric heavens to his fourth abode on the earth. We find it in Revelation 12, verses 7-12. The second angel named in the scriptures is Gabriel, the second good angel. And in Hebrew, the name Gabriel means the mighty one of God. So Gabriel's main work is to be a messenger of revelation, and he brings revelation from God to man. In Daniel chapter 8, verses 15-27, he made the revelation to Daniel concerning Israel in the end of days. He revealed the 77s and the timing of the first coming of the Messiah in Daniel chapter 9, verse 20-27. In Luke 1:11-20, he revealed to Zacharias the coming birth of John the Baptist. And in Luke 1:26-38, he revealed to Mary the coming birth of Jesus. Like Michael, Gabriel will also have work to do in the future. In Luke 1:19, it states that Gabriel is one of the angels who will stand in the presence of God. Now, in Revelation 8, verse 2, there are 7 such angels, which means that Gabriel is one of the 7 who stand in the very presence of God and who will pour out the trumpet judgments of Revelation 8 and 9. Other angels we have, the Bible also mentions other individual angels who are not named, but states what they do. For example, in Revelation 8, verse 2, there are these 7 angels standing before the presence of God, one of whom is Gabriel, but the other 6, we don't know their names. Revelation 15 and 16 mentions 7 other angels who will have the 7 bowl judgments. The other angels referred to include the 4 angels of the 4 winds, Revelation 7, verses 1 to 4, and the angel of fire, Revelation 14, verse 8, and the angel of the waters in Revelation 16, verse 5. So that concludes our first part of angelology. See our contact details there. Thank you for coming along. Study hard, grow strong.